Let me turn my phone nicely down.
You grab my phone, please.
All right, we are live.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Miles the Millennial.
And it's your boy Rex Howard Jr.
And it's Coach Lauren J, your favorite relationship coach. And we are live everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So we're live.
Welcome, everybody, to another live show of Real Talk, Real Growth, where we're going to have a powerful conversation today. It's actually going to be part 2, following up on a conversation that we had last week. So this one, following up on last week, is why titles bring entitlement, right? So we had a really great conversation last week, and we really had the chat jumping. Everybody was giving a lot of impact. And actually, I think we did it. It wasn't last week. It was 2 weeks ago, because we gave time for the election. The election was going on last Tuesday. So we didn't go live last Tuesday. But now we're back like we never missed a beat. We're excited for today's conversation. Rex, Coach Lauren, how are you guys doing?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I really can't complain. Today's been a really, really good day. I saw 2 new clients today. And great conversations, great people, great flow. So I can't complain at all. How y'all doing?
It's been a great day. I closed a nice deal today on a corporate client. Finalizing some things for this our group coaching program in 2025. So today's really been a great day. I've been slow living for 2 days. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, wait, I'm just getting up. I've taken naps 2 days in a row. I never take naps. Yeah. I was low-key scared.
That's real. You need a break, though.
Yes.
You definitely need a break. I'm glad things are going good for you. I've had a good day as well. I think the Lord, Coach, we were talking about this in our chat. The Lord has been on us heavy today in a very good and positive way, just having us deep in the word, deep in our understanding. So I think it's a blessing. That's all I can say. I've been blessed today.
And I get to see y'all this upcoming weekend. So I'm very excited about that. We have to go live just because I'm there.
We definitely will.
So, you said what?
I was asking Coach, what day are you coming in?
Saturday.
Okay, Saturday. Okay, cool.
I may be leaving on Friday.
Okay.
So yeah, there is a 40% chance I'll be going home to see family on Friday, Saturday, coming back on Sunday. So I'll definitely keep y'all posted. But if I don't go anywhere, then I'm locked in.
Okay, we'll make something happen one way or another.
Okay.
Correct. Lord, just hold Rex up one more day in Jesus' name, man. Okay.
Well, hop into this episode, man. So why titles bring entitlement? Rex, before we get started, only thing I want to say is make sure you guys are liking, sharing to people that are in your circle. We're gonna have a powerful conversation. So, Rex, whenever you're ready, let's get going.
Absolutely. So, question, get it started off and go just like this. What are the key signs that fear is influencing how you approach conversations or conflict in your relationship?
When you have apprehension and you can't explain why. Right? It's actually something that just happened. That was I think a next step and next level in my relationship that happened a couple of days ago. I've been in a different state this year. I've, haven't made the amount of money that I wanted to make in my business. I've stepped out on faith and trying to get this to grow. And my finances aren't where they usually would be. Definitely not where my girlfriend is used to them being, right? Like she used to me being able to have the money for anything we want to do. And I'm very open in communicating like certain boundaries and restrictions that I have. Like, okay, I can't really do this. But, she's like, you never really open up to me about what your financial situation really is. And I've always had big apprehension about that. Growing up, my father always told me, man, his money, keep it private. Don't share it with people, and then when you see things reinforced as you grow up, not just in your household, but in community where people get treated differently based on how much money they have or how little money that they have and the value of a man. And if he still gets the same respect based on his financial situation, I've never really opened up about that. And so I would express that I was struggling financially, but I wouldn't really tell the whole story.
Absolutely.
And she asked me that question. She's like, what's really going on? Like, I'm not going to judge you. And I sat there and I was very apprehensive. Every single time this would come out, I was apprehensive. I was just worked around it, said all these different things, and it was because of fear. And finally, I was like, you know what, bro? At this point, as deep as y'all are in this thing, if you can't tell her this, then that's a key sign. If you can't trust to tell her this, then maybe that's a sign you shouldn't be with her. So you probably should open up your mouth and see. And so I did. And she comforted me. She reassured me. She told me straight up, she's like, Miles, I come from even less than that. So even your little is more than enough. That
Yeah.
means everything to me. That mean everything to me. And it let me know that I'm safe, right? Even though I already knew that for almost 6 years, but there's stages and your apprehensions come up and your fears. That's how you know that fear is getting in the way of your communication, because you're holding back things and you can't even explain why. That is fear.
That's actually really good. What you got to say about that, Coach?
I'm a dud. No, I'm joking. Who chose this title?
Man,
Oh man, that is Miles. First of all, I just love y'all. Let me just start there. Like, I love y'all like family. Like, would walk in blood knee deep behind you at any point of the day. Like, real talk. So I'm so grateful, but I'm so glad that you shared that and that you were open about that. And whew, as you were talking, I was like, man, I feel that so heavy. And I think it was beautiful how she held space for you to just be able to know, like, I'm not measuring you by that at all. And just for you to be able to just say that and be open, even on our live. And those of you that are watching, share the live. Make sure you share the live and tag folks who need it. Because I do think that is so needed. And I have been there. This has been a very challenging season for me this year. Like, ever since God played that, I call them crackhead games. The crackhead games where he'd be like, come on out to the water. No. I told my best friend today, I was like, look now, when you are an entrepreneur and you got your own business, you can't do nothing wrong. Like, the law, like, you be worried because the Lord is your CEO, you the manager, and at any point it could go wrong.
yeah,
So
it can.
even for me, like being a woman, I've always been very hyper independent. So I'm recovering hyper independent. So my biggest struggle is that having to have that conversation. I've always been the person in my family to take care of practically everyone. So I am the go-to. So like, even allowing someone to come in and be like, let me serve you, let me help you in this area, it feels so uncomfortable. And this season of my life, God has allowed me to have like those conversations. And each and every time, I can definitely say it was fear of why I didn't want to, but each and every time it drew, like, it made the friendships, the relationships just that much closer. And it also made me be like, you know what? No one even cared about that. like you allowed this worry in your mind to take over you in such a way that, like, it really didn't matter. So I'm super proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Truly.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, those are the tough conversations that make or break a relationship,
Mm.
right? I remember my last relationship. My ex told me, um, "Don't tell me when you have financial struggles because it gives me too much anxiety. So I don't want to hear about it." And that crushed me. You know what I'm saying? Because not only am I carrying the weight of trying to make sure I'm good, but also trying to create space to make sure she's good, and traveling and going back and forth, and then also taking care of family. I don't have nobody to share it with,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, in those moments I felt to myself like, well, if you don't want to hear about what happens when I'm here, why would I want to share things with you when I'm here?
Yeah.
Right? You can't sit with me in this. Why would I want to allow for you to sit next to me when things are on next level? Like, could I even trust that you're willing to do that? And if things were to go left, then where would you go? Right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you were able to have the language to say that, to bring her in, to check your ego, to check your pride, and then to say, you know what? If this is the person I'm going to rock with, then I'm going to share these intimate moments of my life with her, and how she responds will determine how I'll respond next. And it
Yeah,
seemed like she did exactly what she was supposed to do. Now that's like more pressure that's taken off you, and it allows you to flourish and grow. So if there is another time in the future where things may not be where you want to be, you can say that, and then she can ask you, well, is there anything you may need from me? And then that's a conversation in itself.
that's right.
So so that's really good. But you know what? I feel like the people needed to hear that. I actually clicked on the wrong set of questions to start with.
Oh, like we answered
See,
that last
and that's
week.
why you about to get fired and put these questions on here. Because you can't.
We
Right.
definitely
So,
answered that
so
question last week, I think.
yeah, but that was no, it was 2 weeks ago. But that was
2 weeks.
actually just a great feedback. So to jump into the real set, all right, let's
Mhm.
start with here.
The real
All
thing.
right. All right. How might society and cultural norms influence our expectations and entitlement connected to relationship titles? So, once again, how might society and cultural norms influence our expectations and entitlement connected to relationship titles? And Coach Sloan, I want you to start off on this one.
So okay, so we're in the society where like everything is instant, right? We can go live instantly. We can do so many things instantly, and the beauty of social media is that it allows us to connect with people that we may never or have never met physically, like our life. But it also um can also, the other side to that is it can also become an addiction of where we are, so is where we're going to get that hit of dopamine, where we're going to get that hit of like proving that my life is great and I've got this thing. And so because a lot of times we're looking at highlights of other people's lives when we're scrolling, we're thinking that these relationship goals are real goals, and we're thinking that, oh my God, this is what I want. But you don't know what that person has to go through to get that, right? And relationships are more about really understanding and getting on the same page more than it is about vacations and sleeping with somebody.
Yeah.
Like to me, that is the lowest form of the relationship. You can tell the true health of the relationship by the ability for us to be able to have conversations, and that level of intimacy be the first thing that we tap into, and not just going into the bedroom. And so when you think about titles, for women, we feel like titles give us definition.
Mm-hmm.
Titles give us definition. And so a lot of times you'll find that we're wanting to get very definitive, because the truth is we're trying to define what's the definition of this, because we're placing value with this, versus us really looking at this from an objective state to know, to realize and decide, is this really where I should be anyway,
In the first place.
in the first place. And so I definitely feel like social media definitely plays a very big role in um, almost reshaping our minds of what relationships and what titles should actually mean when it comes to a relationship.
No, that's good, Coach. That's really it. And I'm glad you hit on the social media piece, because I wasn't even thinking about that in particular. But you're right. And one of the things that also comes with that dopamine release is because you're so used to things happening instantly, you don't have the grit, you don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the perspective that things take time. You're not used to it taking time, right? You're not used to having to have a conversation and then it takes a few weeks for the conversation to really hit and changes to start happening and you guys to really get on the same page together. You're not used to, you know, issues coming up between you and your partner and they're not instantly resolved just because you want it to be resolved. We're so used to having it our way when we want to have it our way. Um, so that's a big part of that. And then I'll also say that we're told by society what each title is supposed to mean, right?
Mm.
Versus defining it for ourselves. So you're going about, and especially if you lacked, to your point about definition, if you lacked an example, a healthy example that could really give you something to go off of, then you're really just out here willy-nilly trying to create it based on what other people are telling you, right?
That's good.
Society tells you that a boyfriend is supposed to do this and do that. A husband does this and does that. A wife does this and does that. A girlfriend does this and does that. They're giving you all these titles and definitions. Most of them not biblical. Let's start there. So it's not even like, because there is a definition you can go off of, but we're not even going to dive into that just yet. But you're going off of all these things that everybody else has told you about what it should be. And most of them people don't even have it figured out for themselves. And so all these people who don't know what they want, don't know how to make it work because they haven't made it work, are really speaking from broken and traumatized places and trying to tell you the best way for you to operate out of it, but they're operating out of their fear and brokenness, and they're projecting their expectations and standards onto you. And so we end up with a community of people who really don't know what each stage of a relationship looks like, what happiness really feels like in their own heart. And so they chase what everybody else is telling them is supposed to be, and then they still wonder why they're miserable with their partner. So I think that that is a big thing in how society influences the titles and the expectations within our relationships.
That's actually really good. So I'm gonna repeat the question one more time and I'm gonna answer. So
Okay.
the question says, how might society and cultural norms influence our expectations and entitlement connected to relationship titles? And I think the two things I'm seeing, right? When you step into a relationship, because that's what you see a lot of on social media, relationships. You don't see marriages, you see boyfriend and girlfriend, situationships.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it ships. You know what I'm saying? You see all these different things, but two things come to mind. There's this entitlement to pockets. Your money is my money now, right? Uh, uh, there's an entitlement to pay for a date. There's an entitlement to fly somebody out. There's an entitlement to go to a club and buy a section. There's an entitlement to spend all your money on the holidays and on purses and on things. There's an entitlement to pay for somebody's nails. Like, oh, if you're going to ask me about my nail color, you got to pay for these. Right. There's this sense of entitlement when it comes to that. And then also one thing I hear a lot of is there's an entitlement to a person's body, right? I think people tend to think that just because I'm in a relationship, I don't know, I no longer have to ask for you because you're mine now, right? So when you're mine now, we're good, right? So when I want it, you should want it, and if I don't want it and you want it, then I should still be able to give it to you. There's this sense of entitlement. There's an entitlement over our time, right? So on social media, couples seem as if they're spending all day together, all day, every day together. And I think Miles hit on this last week. If I'm a busy man, I'm a productive man, I can't speak under you all day, every day. But there's a sense of entitlement when it comes to spending time, when it comes to spending money, when it comes to sex and intimacy. And then also when it comes to family and friends, right? How do you make decisions about who to spend the holidays with? Is it your family or is it mine? Right? Or do we start our own traditions? Oh, I don't like your mama, so I ain't going over there. So we need to go over here, right? So there's all these different levels of entitlements that the culture plays a role. And now we're going to social media to define what we're supposed to be doing, right? But there's already a book laid out. There's already information is there. And the only relationship that God acknowledges is a marriage, right? Other than that, he don't give you a blueprint for boyfriend or girlfriend. So if everybody's going to social media to your favorite coach, your favorite therapist, or whatever, if that person isn't connected spiritually, they're feeding you their own personal opinions. And if they're feeding you their own personal opinions, that's always going to be worldly. Right. But if you have a person that's going to direct you back to the book and say, well, what does the Bible say? Oh, the Bible doesn't say boyfriend and girlfriend. The Bible doesn't say talk about paying rent. The Bible don't talk about paying for nails. The Bible don't talk about, like, there's a lot of different things it's not talking about that we've created our own rules and guidelines for. So I think that's my answer to
Boom.
that.
Right. Man, that was so good.
Yeah,
Look, Angela him, she's in the comments. She said preach.
man. Kim Pebble said we all have fears, although communication with the right person shows you that it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
Shout out to everybody that's been sending it, tagging people. Thank you, Kosi, for your tags. Keep tuning in, guys. If y'all
Yay.
have questions, comments, drop them in the chat. We will definitely address them.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let's tap into what anybody say want to say anything else about that one.
Mm-mm. We don't
Perfect.
get the
All right.
collection plate.
Literally. Next question. What are ways people can maintain personal identity and boundaries even when in a committed, titled relationship? So once again, what are ways people can maintain personal identity and boundaries even when in a committed relationship?
I think you got to have some first, right? I
Yeah.
think before you walk in there, you have to know, okay, these are the things that I really hold close and dear to me. These are the things that help me progress in certain areas of my life. My fitness is crucial to me. My time with God is crucial to me. What I consume is crucial to me. The things that really make up a vast portion of who you are and push you forward in your life. That's a part of your identity. Being able to know what that is and being able to call attention to them will allow you to know when something is coming in that's going to influence and alter it, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a baseline in the first place, then you don't know that you're losing your identity in the first place, right?
Yeah.
People come in and they don't have any self-worth, and so when they get into a relationship, they just kind of take on whatever that person gives them and tells them that's their new self-worth. If this person says I'm worthy, if this person says I'm good, if this person says I'm doing a great job, then I am. And if they say I'm not, then I'm not, right? Because they don't have it for themselves. And so it's a lot harder for you to define that. And that's a different question on how do you define it once you're in a relationship if you didn't have it before. But I think the key is you need to look at the person you were before you got in that relationship and what were the good things that you really did value. And you have to set a boundary with the person that you're with, saying that these are not things that I'm going to allow anybody, not even you, to come in and negatively impact. If I'm somebody that takes care of my health and fitness, I cannot start living a lifestyle that is to my detriment simply because that's the life you live, right? And that's a part of that. That's just one example of those boundaries and that identity. You have to define that for yourself. What is good for you? What makes you who you are? That way, when you're in the relationship, you can find the balance because you will take on some of those characteristics, and that's okay. But you need to make sure that they're the right ones.
That's actually really good. What you got to say about that, Coach?
Um, as I was thinking it through, like personal identity and boundaries, I echo what Miles says, and I think a lot of times for women, and this kind of goes back to an earlier question, that the first question that you asked us, it also, fear is a part of it, but rejection is the other. And so a lot of times people are afraid to articulate their boundaries or what their identity is for fear of rejection. Because depending on the person that you're with, you could be with somebody who that they can't understand why you don't want to spend time with them all the time, all the time, all the time, right? And like for, I'll use me as example. I am not just a business owner, I'm also a mom, right? And so like my life lives by a schedule. I can't make it without a calendar. So if I'm a person that like you need to see every day, definitely get somebody else to do it energy. I don't have that kind of time in my day. It's one of the reasons I prefer to date long distance and not in town. Because I don't need you to just want to pop up to be like, oh, hey, you want to catch a movie? And like now I'm trying to hurry up and finish whatever I was doing or moving stuff around to catch a movie because this isn't on a schedule. You see what I'm saying? Your schedule is free, so now you feel like mine needs to be free, right? And so I think for us, like dating and the word doesn't speak about dating, but it does speak about friendship. And
Mm,
friendship is the foundation of any relationship. And so in the friendship phase is what I call it. That is where we need to be having those conversations about what are your boundaries. You know, who do you believe God's calling you to be? What do you think your purpose is? What goals have you not met, but you're dying to meet or you're hoping to meet? What does that look like for you? Because that really tells you more about a person than anything. And so I'll end out on limb I'm playing here. As women, I'm speaking to women specifically because I'm a woman. A man love a woman who got something going on.
yeah.
A man love a woman who got her own hustle. A man love a woman that got her own set of friends. He loves a woman that's busy like Ruth. Okay. He likes a woman that's already working in her purpose. And for the men, If the woman that you're with is asking you to change your identity to make her comfortable, she's not it. Not
Yeah.
yet. And any blessing birthed too soon is a burden.
Any blessing birthed too
Gotta
soon.
write it down now.
I'm telling you, definitely going into Google Docs. Um, okay, perfect. Well, that's really, really good. So let me take it here then. Um, two things. What you just said, a man wants a woman that loves a woman that's owns something, right? So yesterday what I did was I gifted my lady her Christmas slash birthday present, right?
Hmm.
Early, and I did it simply because um she's creative. So I bought her a MacBook, right? The reason I did that is because my lady is a content creator. So you know when you see somebody in their purpose and they kind of they're doing their thing, you kind of let them do it. But my lady is also not gonna say she's secretive about her page, but she's sensitive about her page. So she won't broadcast, "Hey babe, I just made a post. Go check it out." She won't do none of that. The only thing she gonna do is keep posting, posting, posting. And if you run across it, then you see it, then it is what it is. So that's exactly what happened. So she created a new TikTok 3 months ago. From the time she created it to now, she's up like almost 5 to 6 thousand followers. And it's because she's making quality content for nurses, for new nurses, for lifestyle, for relationships, just creating her journey. She's on camera, she's talking, she's recording, and there's moments and times where I'll call her and she won't answer, and then she'll call me back, "Hey babe, I was recording." I said, "Okay, cool." So I just so happened to find her TikTok. I'm like, how do I find, as your fiance, how do I find your TikTok? Why don't I know it? So I find this new TikTok she has, and I'm seeing everybody fall in love with her content. I'm seeing everybody comment, "Hey,
Oh,
we need this, we need this." So I'm hearing her in her conversation. She's saying, "I really wish I had a computer. Like if I had a computer, I could fast track this. If I had a computer, I could make more content. If I had a computer, I have more space." So she never directly asked me for anything, but because she's on her purpose and I can see it, I was like, you know what? Gotta put me in a position to make it happen. So I did it. And I was like, the reason I gave it to her last night versus waiting till Christmas is because we got a lot of stuff coming up soon. And she's about to get ready to apply to school. So I was just like, you know what? There's certain things you need it for. So that just confirms what you just said. As a man, if my partner is on her purpose and she has her own thing, I know for one, she's not gonna be on my tail all day, every day, because she has her own business to do. She has her own people to pour into. She has her own gift to develop and cultivate. And now we have more stuff to talk about. Because if I'm the only one that's busy, then after I get past answering the question, "How was my day?" I don't want to ask you because you ain't doing nothing. You free.
oh God, bro.
You
Oh
free.
God.
Yeah, like you got all this time. You free. Your day looks like every day. Your day's on TikTok. You're scrolling. It's whatever. But to answer the question, how does a person go to it? It says, what are ways people can maintain personal identity and boundaries even when in a committed relationship? It's become the healthiest version of yourself while you're single, right? So this is almost piggybacking off of what Miles said. I'm just going to word it different. It's knowing who you are and whose you are, right?
Mm,
Because if I am the healthiest person and version of myself, I'm going to see unhealthy traits in a person. And I can determine if those traits are going to be things that are going to make the relationship or break the relationship. If I'm the healthiest person and you see my Instagram, you see my flow, you hear my conversation, you see that I value going to the gym, that I value meal prepping or I value traveling, and you come into my life and you don't have any of those things, and now you're upset because I'm asking you about your routine, then that it's not gonna be a thing, right?
mm,
So even if you don't work out, but you're just one of those people that have a very high metabolism, you know what I'm saying, your body says what it is. I need you to respect the fact that I still spend an hour and a half in the gym. I have to stay on my routine. Yes, you want to go out to eat on Fridays and Saturdays, but that's actually my meal prepping days. So are you willing to make a compromise? So you can't lose who you are by joining something new. That's how you're going to maintain your boundaries, but you also have to have your own personal boundaries. Boundaries around your time, boundaries around your physicality and affection, boundaries around your money, and boundaries around your purpose. Right? Certain things you just can't let happen, and certain things you just can't let your guard down on, because the minute somebody knows that you're willing to spend more and go outside your budget for them, they're going to keep taking advantage of that. The minute somebody knows, as long as I come over on the weekends and I tell him I'm going to watch a movie, although he has work to do, they're going to take advantage of that. If somebody knows that they can call you 12 times a day and you're going to pick up the phone every single time, they're going to take advantage of that. So it's having your own boundaries, standing firm in your boundaries, and then for certain times, certain days, you can budge, right? But if you budge too much, they gonna take advantage of that.
You
But
know,
but a healthy person, we find that attractive.
yes.
Like to me, it is nothing more attractive than a man that is in his thing because it makes me go get into my thing
Definitely.
even the more because he's into his thing. And the other thing that is attractive to those of you that are in a relationship with strong-minded women is we love a man that can hold a boundary against. Baby, tell me no.
Yeah.
I like it.
But you ain't lying, man. And I think another part about it too is I think it allows you to cherish your time with that person more. When you feel entitled to something, you don't appreciate it. It's
Mm.
something that I'm supposed to have, right? Versus this person cares so much about me that they adjusted their schedule a little bit. Rex loved me so much that he set aside his time today on his meal prep to do it a couple hours later so that we could go do this particular thing I've been wanting to do. They appreciate you more, right? You always appreciate that which you know is limited, that which you know is not just always going to be there just because you want it to be there. And we are human beings. So if we have a limited, finite amount of time, energy, resources that we can give, and people believe that at any beckoning call, any simple thing, this person is going to fall and do everything I say, then that means you're draining that person. That person has nothing else to give. So you want a person that when you look at them, you have to say, I know she might have something going on. Let me see if this works with her schedule. You want to have that opportunity because it makes it mean more to you. It
Yes.
really does.
That's actually really good and really good. Do we have any questions, any statements, or anything?
I don't see any questions, just a lot of like laughter, fire emojis, stuff like that.
Okay, bet. Appreciate y'all for the engagement. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. As we continue, the next one is entitlement tied to relationship titles often unintentional, or do you think people are aware when they're acting from a place of entitlement? So, is
Mm.
entitlement tied to relationship titles often unintentional, or do you think people are aware when they're acting from a place of entitlement?
I think sometimes people have no idea. But I do think at a certain point, people do know, they just don't think that it's wrong. I think people truly do believe at a certain point that this is the way it's supposed to be. Because if all you, let's just use men women dynamics for a second. Let's say the term happy wife, happy life, right? Let's say as a man, that's what I've been taught. That's what I've been told is, man, just keep that woman happy, keep her from having complaints with you, and you'll be all right, bro. Right? You can deal with everything else. And the woman I'm with believes that too, right? Well, what's going to end up happening is I consciously know that I'm giving her everything and giving myself nothing. I consciously know that she feels entitled to every single thing within me, around me, and of me. She knows this too, but we don't think it's a problem. And I think that that is a not just that concept, but all these concepts, the ones that you've talked about, Rex, um, about what you're supposed to pay for, what you're supposed to this. I think people think that it's the right thing. I think people believe that it is the correct way that things are supposed to go. And so in their minds, there's nothing unhealthy about it. This is the standard. That's why I always, have that conversation, Rex, on the podcast about concepts of the bare minimum and the standard. And you really have to sit there and ask people, first off, who created this and said that that's what is the quote unquote bare minimum? Secondly, what does the bare minimum even mean? And what is your bare minimum? Because I
Yeah.
always hear it from one perspective. What is it for you? Right? What
Yeah.
is the bare minimum that you're supposed to do for me? Or is everything that you do amazing and a choice and something that I should appreciate, but every single thing that I do is something I'm supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
We got to really redefine it because people think that it sounds good. And I think the bottom line to this, and I'm going to leave it alone, is when you traumatize, when you've been through some stuff, you broken, when it sound good, when something hits your pain points that you've had in the past, you now say, oh, I've been through this before, so then this must be the better way to go about it. That must be where I went wrong. But one thing I learned in debate back in high school is correlation does not always equal causation. Just because something correlates and relates and is similar does not mean that that is the reason and the right solution on how we're supposed to go forward. Most of the time, humans run to the opposite side. If you were hurt by somebody that was broke, well, I need me a rich man, right? Not realizing that the reason why you were hurt was because you were dealing with an emotionally immature person. And you go get this rich man and he emotionally immature too. And so you break your heart too. Right? That is just a human thing. So I think that people know, they just think it's right. They don't realize the pain and the trauma and the brokenness behind it.
That's good. What you think about that, Coach?
Now, I literally went and looked up the word entitlement. I'm one of them people. Love a good definition, right? And as I literally went and like looked it up, and me knowing what it means, but I love to look at it from different perspectives. I think that what Miles says is very, very spot on, because it all rolls into being self-centered focus. And if we're all about me, then we can't be about we. And that becomes a very big issue. And I always tell couples, when you are a weak me, you can't be a stronger we. You literally have to be a strong me makes a stronger we. And
Yeah.
so who are you outside of that? And sometimes I do think that, quite honestly, how we saw things happen in our household, that's another reason why we feel entitled. Because your grandma and them and your aunt and your mom and them, they don't see nothing wrong with you. I mean, what he mean he ain't bringing a check home to you? I mean, he should be able to, like, they give you that sense of entitlement as well. So then you start thinking that that's a norm. And I mean, I coach men and women all day long. One of the things I am very much so against is 50-50. I think that's silly. Like, what are we talking about? Like, going 50-50 on bills, and I ain't gonna pay the rent, and I ain't gonna do that. Like, but don't you live here? You mean to tell me you want this man stressed out when you making the bulk of the money and all you want to pay for is the utilities, and you think that's okay? And he over here, he's stressed, but he's got his own set of debt that he's brought to the relationship, whatever that may look like, and his income may not be yours. Again, if we are a partner, if you're a true partner, then I'm not going to let my partner be like struggling and be like, oh, well, that's your finances. Excuse me? So he good enough to shoot your club up, but he ain't good enough for you to help out with these bills. It's given, no. That's what it's given. And so, like, when I think about left, but that really ticks me off when I hear women say that, because to me that is very silly and it's very immature, and it goes back to the entitlement. It goes back to the entitlement, and a lot of that is what we saw our mamas and them do. And if you want to be looking like her, then keep on.
You know, that was actually a really great point, and it was something I was going to bring up too. I think it becomes unintentional when you're raised in that environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
My daddy did this, so my daddy always paid the bills. My daddy always did this. My daddy did this. That means you have to as well. So it's an expectation that because my daddy did it, you're supposed to do it. But I remember I caught hell for saying I want my partner to work hard because my mom worked hard. And everybody said, so you want your mom to be you're like, you want your mom to be a slave then? I was like, but why is it a slave when it's speaking about a woman, but it's not a slave when a man has to do it every single day? So it's very interesting that sense of entitlement. And then one thing I found when it comes to social media is a lot of things that people expect. One, they can't give it to themselves, and two, they never saw a man do it for their mom. So it sounds good, right? It sounds really good. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing that I find is this, especially in a lot of different communities. I'm not going to be specific about the community, but there's men that do have the bread, but they suck in romance. They suck in intimacy. They suck in emotional intelligence. Right? They suck in all these areas. So that's why you hear people say, would you rather cry in a Honda or cry in a Bentley? But do you realize in the office that I have right now, there's a lady, her husband, they spend majority of their summers on a yacht going to different countries. They live in a 12,000 square foot home, multi-million dollar home. She drives a G-Wagon. The husband drives some crazy stuff. The kids, they have all the electrics, whatever. And she says, Rex, um, if it wasn't for my security with finances, I would have left him 20 years ago. I've been unhappy for 20 years, but I'm here because I don't want to do it by myself. And it's just like we aren't called to live this type of life. We were never called to be unhappy for 20 years. And you can go buy a bag, but you got to cry at night, right? You can go eat 5-star dinners and be on the yacht, but you got to drink wine just to be present or to have intimacy with your partner. So it's just like there's so many different things that are here. So that's why I appreciate women like Miles' partner, and I appreciate my lady because my lady met me and I was in college. I'm in college. You know what I'm saying? I'm not taking trips right now. My best friends got birthdays that I'm missing because I can't afford to go to the city. I've been okay with messing out on things, and I told my lady, I said there's gonna come a time where yes, trips are gonna be a no-brainer. But right now we building. I was just like everybody that I know that I work with, right? They've gotten to a point where they take 30-day trips. They buy the car that they want because they worked hard enough to get to that level. I said, if we take a trip every time we get a check, we ain't gonna never have no savings. You know what I'm saying? We take a trip because you saw so and so boyfriend and girlfriend, they in Cancun. Okay, and but you didn't see what was happening behind that. You didn't see the arguments that they had. So it's just like that comparison, the entitlement. But if it's like if we sit in it and think about, okay, the person that I plan to be with, what can they do right now? What can they do right now? And what am I willing to give to the relationship? If I'm expecting everything to come from them and I'm not expecting to give anything, then I'm going to be no value to the relationship. So when things get hard, or if that person gets up and finally feels successful, yes, he's going to leave because he'll find something else. You ain't poured nothing the whole time. You expected everything and ain't poured nothing. You was a drain and not a fountain the whole relationship.
That's real, bro.
That's the one. It's
Real.
giving boom.
Yeah. And Rex, you really hitting on it because both of y'all are saying some really great points. And I always think about it like this. There are things that we have been told, all the norms are really just entitlements now that I think about it.
Yes.
Think about what the norm is for a man in a relationship. The norm is you work your ass off. You don't necessarily, it don't matter your feelings, don't matter how you feel about it, where you want to go to work today or whether you don't, whether you feel exhausted. You working, and you working. And you come home, you give your check to your wife, she take care of all that, whatever. Your kids happy, everybody happy. You don't ask for nothing. You make sure they good, right? For the woman, you make sure you take care of these kids everywhere they need to go. You make sure that this house is in order. You make sure the meals are prepared. You don't complain. It don't matter how tired you are, how sick you are, how drained you are. Don't want to hear none of it. All the norms are just expectations and entitlements, right? But nobody has ever sat there and said, ask your parents, how did they feel doing that? Ask your daddy, how you feel? Always having to pour into everybody else. And for Christmas every single year, he been saying, just give me some money. Or I don't want nothing. Just give me a new pair of work shoes. You know what I'm saying? To this day, and I told Rex this story, it's one of my favorite stories. My mom and my sister so traumatized by giving my dad gifts that he don't want, that they just, whatever he say he want, Miles, I said, well, we're going to get him. Right? But I'm like, nah, bro. I got to a point, I think I was 23, and I was like, bro, I don't think no man wants that. Like, I know that it feels great when somebody surprised me because they paid attention to something and they got it for me. But see, my mom and sister, they pay attention, but they just don't do it because my dad in the past, if they got him something, problem is women don't be listening. They get men what they want, not what the man really wants. And so he didn't like the gifts, and he's like, oh, thank you, but you don't use it, take it back, whatever. So they don't want to do that. And I said, bro, this man has brought up the fact that he used to fish a lot as a kid with his grandfather. I know he loves his memories with his grandfather. And he said so many times that as he's getting older, he wants to get into hobbies that aren't really taxing on his body, but can really bring back some of the things he did as a kid. And I kept paying attention to this man saying that. And I just said, you know what? y'all, we finna get him a golf, not a golf club, that was another one, but fishing pole. And they're like, Miles, no, he didn't say he wanted that. He said he just wanted money. I'm like, y'all, you know what? After a while, I was like, I'm gonna get it. Don't even worry about it. If it go wrong, it's on me. Y'all get him what you know, y'all want to get him. I'm gonna get him this fishing pole. We took him out to eat that day for Father's Day. Came back, said, I got a surprise for you. He ran in, he saw it. My dad said, man, you really got me on this one. I saw the joy. I ain't seen that man so bright in his eyes, and I don't know, ever buy a gift, right? Yeah, he'd be happy when him and my mom, they're experiencing love with each other. Everything's great. When the kids are doing great, of course he experiences joy. But when does he ever get to experience joy just because it's about him?
Yeah.
Because somebody genuinely came in and paid attention to something and said, you know what? I'm thinking of you, and I think you'll like this. And it really hit on something that he cared about. To this day, he says that was one of the greatest gifts he's ever received. And so I've made it an intentional thing to make sure I try and do that as best I can. But when you sit there and you ask that man or you ask that woman, how did it feel when you were coming home every single day, having to cook and clean, and you were as exhausted and you didn't feel like you could tell your husband you tired because he was going to sit there and tell you that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know what you're tired for. I've been working all day. You got to redefine.
Got to redefine. That's good. Got to have a conversation. What do you need from me, and how can I show it for you? Right? How can I show it for you, and what do you need from me? So that's really good. So I'm going to move on to our last question. But before I go on, do we have any questions in the chat?
We had comments from Purposeful Blends. It makes you look at yourself like, damn, what the hell am I doing? I think that was in reference to like when you with a woman or a man that's on their grind. And they just sent another one. Purposeful Blend said, my dad is the same way, and he loves to play golf. My dad takes care of everything, and on the weekends, my mama don't even trip when he goes to play golf. I'm telling you.
That's that it's a balance.
Yep.
It's give and take, and it has to be that way. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So last question. How can couples redefine or discuss the meaning of their titles to ensure they foster connection rather than control? That's really good, actually. How can couples redefine? Yeah, let me think. That's it. That's good. How can couples redefine or discuss the meaning of their titles to ensure they foster connection rather than control and entitlement? I think I want to go first on this one. I think it boils down to sitting down and actually having a conversation. Okay, very perfect example. My lady and I, we go from talking to now in a relationship. And you say, what does this mean for you? What are your expectations for me at this level? Right? And then not to say that you have to adhere to every expectation, but it just opens up the door for more conversation of what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. Certain things gonna have to wait till we're married, right? Certain things may have to wait until we move in together. Certain things may wait until you get a kid. So we're just having a conversation around expectations and being very clear about what that looks like. Because if you don't know what I expect, then I'm going to assume that you already know. And if I assume that you already know, I'm going to be disappointed when you're not showing up and doing it like I asked you to do it. Right. And that right there is going to lead to conflict. That right there is going to lead to resentment. That right there is going to lead to them bricks being built up in between you and your partner. And you can no longer see each other because they all just been in conflict in this toxic cycle this whole time. So that's one of the main ones I'll share. And I won't hog up the mic.
I won't go off the mouth.
Okay, I got you. Man, I think of something that Rex said. He always has repeated this, and I think that it helped me in my relationship. Rex says one of the greatest ways you can really get to understand your partner, keeping it fresh, making sure you're on the same page, getting to know somebody deeper, is asking questions. Rex is a big question asker. I've noticed that in our podcast sessions, but we took a trip up to Austin, and throughout the trip, Rex really was making me have to ask better questions because he was asking things so deeply. So how did that make you feel? Or why did you go about it this way? How does that show up in other areas of your life? And I'm sitting there like, dang, man, like I never thought to go this deep or ask questions from this perspective. So prime example of how that played out in my relationship. and this is a clip that went viral on our page not too long ago, was I asked my girl, I said, I want to do something with you. I want you to act like you're single again. And I want you to write down your list of 5 things that would be your non-negotiables for where you're at in this phase of your life for a partner, right? And I'm going to do the same, and then we're going to share them. So we took like a week. We wrote them down. We finally sat down. We talked about our different things. And what was powerful about it is it allowed us to realize the areas where we might be falling short based on who this person is now, because you knew this person when you started dating them and maybe what their non-negotiables were. But as you develop and you mature, that may change. Things that you used to not go for, you might be more open to it because you see a different perspective. And the things that you were used to doing, you just wouldn't tolerate anymore. And it kept things fresh. It allowed you to realize I'm not entitled to this person's, the same version of this person, because they're not the same version that they used to be. I must be in a space where I'm constantly adapting and make sure I'm nurturing who they are and who they're becoming, as well as them doing the same for me. Because what happens in relationships so often is they stagnate, right? They stale at a certain point. That first 5 years is great, but then at a certain point, those kids come along. The jobs come along, all these different things start coming into the picture. And because you're not asking the questions, as Rex always says, because you're not finding the ways to adapt, you're putting yourself in a position to where you think that because it's always been this way, that we're good and it's going to always be that way. And that's how love gets in a very tough position. So I think the way that you protect against that, Rex, is you ask questions, you have intimate conversations. And something that Darius Daniels said in his last message, and I want to say it was in the Bible, but I was just looking up to try and see if I could find the Bible. He might have been using a personal anecdote from somewhere else, but he said, write your plans in pencil, right? And he said the reason why you write the plans in pencil is so that God can erase them and redirect your path whenever he needs to make a change, right? So it's like a lot of times we go into relationships that with that mindset of everything's in pen. This is what it is, and it's not to change. And if we are to love our partners, right, and we're supposed to model the love that Christ had for the church, right, we have to understand that that comes with the ability to serve each other based on the needs at the time, which will require you to have to adapt and evolve.
That's actually really good, Miles. 2 words that that exemplify what you're just talking about is radical curiosity. Radical curiosity. You need to be radically curious about your partner's world. The Bible says you need to know her, right? To know her. So when you are radically curious about her day, even when it comes to your kids, right? I remember riding home and my dad would say, "How was your day today?" And that was the common question. And we would say it was good. Like that was just our automatic response. It was cool. And I remember my dad saying yes. And I realized when y'all were kids, I was only giving y'all about 15 to 20 words a day. I was asking y'all, how was your day? How was practice? And have you eaten? Right. But I wasn't going deeper. And then I heard another podcast. A man said, when you come to your kids, ask them, what part of your day did you enjoy the most? What conversation made you the happiest today? Right. So even when it comes to my lady, I would say, where did you feel the most valued at work today? And she's like, oh, I mean, nobody's ever asked that. Well, that's the point, right? The only way I'm going to know more about your day and to bypass all the automatic responses that I typically get, I have to ask different type of questions. And if you struggle with asking questions, then I promise you there's thousands of card games out there for couples, for intimacy, for relationships, for finances, for marriage. And then the Bible has 1,000 questions in it itself. So if you become great at asking the right questions, you will get different kind of answers. And that radical curiosity would always keep you in the know and always keep you on your toes when it comes to your relationships.
No, that was so good. I wrote that down, radical curiosity. I always tell people I lean into my ignorance. I'm always like, if I ask a question, because I ask a lot of questions too. So I'm always like, but sometimes people think it's rhetorical because of society norms, or maybe how they've heard this question in the past. And so I will literally say, hey, I'm really leaning into my ignorance on this. Because I don't want you to think that, oh, Lauren's the smart aleck that knows everything, And look, Purposeful Blend said, and ChatGPT will give you questions too.
I'm
Facts.
telling you,
In
1,000.
facts. Like y'all need to download the app. It's free. Okay. You can talk to it. I literally had well, let me answer your question and then I'll piggyback off at the end. One of the things that you asked in your questions about like titles and kind of like how to keep up to date with where we are, check-ins.
Mm.
Your job does check-ins with you. They do quarterly reviews, annually reviews, and they're talking about what? Your performance.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're not checking in with our partners. And so we're going 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, not knowing that your partner is building up a resentment against you from something that happened in January and it is September. And you're trying to figure out why they still mad because we're not checking in. So when
Yeah.
was the last time you checked in with your partner and you allowed them to give you critical feedback that wasn't going to turn into arguments? When was the last
Good.
time you asked them to give you feedback about maybe some things that would change about you and you didn't take it personal, but you told them that I want to grow in this area. So I'm needing you to be as honest as you desire. A lot of times we're not doing that. And so we're just commanding to people, hey, do this, get this done. And we're never going back and saying, how did that feel to you?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel when I did this? Did this serve you well? Because at the end of the day, we're all called to serve.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we can take the egotistical way of things and think, well, I shouldn't have to do all that for him. I shouldn't have to do all that for her. Well, we're still a team. So if you're the stronger person, then just do it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to make a big deal about it. Then just do it. God gave you this person because you needed what they had and they needed what you have. It's called the even exchange. But we're so busy trying to police who's doing what and when that you're not even being present and making sure you're serving. You think because you're serving well. Sis, you may want to do a check.
Yeah.
You just because you serving don't mean you serving well.
Yeah.
So you need to check in just like you do at that job and get critical feedback about your growth so you can grow and talk about how do you like to be challenged. That's a question we need to know off rip. How do you like to be challenged? If there's something I need to say to you that I do believe may challenge your thought process, may challenge you in other ways, how would you like me to bring that conversation to you? Because that's more important than how do you like to be loved? Way more important. And I will land my plane here. You said something really powerful about the questions. So, of course, I am a co-parenting parent, and I manage my co-parenting life like I manage business. And so, and it works really, really well. And so, one of the things that I did, we had a situation with one of my sons, where someone was bullying at school or what have you, and I was so proud of him because he journaled about it. I was proud of 10, by the way, and he journaled about it. And your children watch what you do more than they listen to what you say. And they see me journal every day. I did not make him pick up the habit of journaling. He picked it up on his own. And so because he journaled, I saw it. He left it out for me to read on his desk. And so we addressed the situation, got everything taken care of. And I reached out to his dad and I said, look, I need you to like make sure that we're having nightly check-ins. I need you FaceTiming, and I really need you to be as present as possible when it comes to what's happening in their day. And one of the things that I realized like last week was like, you need to provide clarity with some questions, right? Because a lot of times we think, well, I mean, I call the kids, that should be enough, but you're not talking about anything.
Yeah.
So we do calendar invites. Everything goes in my calendar. Rex is like, what? Yes, we do calendar invites. And, yeah, we do. We do calendar invites. And so what I did on our calendar invite for his check-in time, and I also alert Alexa, so everyone knows at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, we're checking in. And I added questions on there. I gave 5 questions that either one of us can be asking to help them unpack their day. How? Chat GPT. Okay. And one of the questions that you asked, Rex, was actually on here about like what was the best part of your day. And of course, I asked Chat GPT to give me those questions in the realm of like speaking to a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. And so it asks is like, who did you hang out with today? Did y'all do anything interesting? Anything come up today that made you feel proud of yourself or made you think I did that?
That's
Like
good.
more than just the routine automation of questions. And so I provided that because I was like, you know what? We don't know what to ask. Like we don't always know what to ask, and so we think because we're calling that is enough. And so for those parents that are co-parenting, whether you divorced or married, it don't matter, you still co-parenting. We need to have like a rhythm or a system of how we're having how we're asking questions, because that is going to be how you get our children to be more emotionally vulnerable and feel emotionally safe, to be asked a lot of different questions that really challenge their thinking.
That's
So
really good.
yeah, so I want to put that out there. We do have a question that just came up on our IG.
Yeah, I was just about to say we got time for one more. First off, well, that's Fallon. Thank you for what you said. She said joining in as a conversationalist, student, and coach of all things relationship. I love what you all are doing. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate you, Fallon. The question is by My Lucid Lingo. How do you move on from a relationship you had subconsciously developed dependence on in terms of your validation? All those nice quirks that come with being anxiously attached. How do you move on from that? This is good.
Rex.
I'm looking at words for this one too.
Yeah. So
Rex.
ask the question one more time. How do you move on after subconsciously being dependent on them for validation?
Yep.
Mhm,
So you
So
got
yeah,
that
you
anxiety attached to because you're moving from them.
mhm,
exactly. So you go grab your journal, right? And on your journal, you create a list of everything that they validated for you,
Mm,
right? Everything that they have validated in your life, in your relationship, who you are as a person, who you are as a man, who you are in your sex game, who you are with your finances, how you look when you get your hair cut, how you look when you put your new shoes on, everything that they did, right? You do that. And then you create a list of your fears. Because anxiety means you're fearful of something, right? So you make a list of all of your fears, right? And then when you go back to your first list, you give yourself validation or a affirmation for the thing that she used to validate you in, right? And it's going to feel weird at first. You're like, well, if that's what it was, I would have never needed her. But you thought you needed her for that because you never gave it to yourself. Or maybe
mm,
your mom never gave it to you. Maybe your father never gave it to you. Maybe you don't have siblings or friends that have gassed you up. So it feels uncomfortable for you to do it for yourself. So I'm going to ask you, one, create the list of all the things she validated in you. And then I want you to combat that with an affirmation for yourself. For two, I want you to show yourself more compassion and more love, right? I want you to speak kinder to yourself. I want you to look for every reason in your day for things to go good. I want you to think about everything about your day. Um, to see the things that you wouldn't normally see, to talk to yourself in ways you wouldn't normally talk. I want you to see something in you that she saw in you, but believe that you can have it with or without her, right? And it's uncomfortable and it's weird and it doesn't work unless you're deliberate at it, right? I was reading the other day, change only happens when you're consistent and deliberate at doing it on a consistent basis. So if you just tell yourself, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, I'm intellectual enough, I'm handsome enough for a week, it's not going to stick. It's a statistic shows that you have to be consistently doing this for, what did it say, for 13 to 20 weeks
mhm,
of consistency for it to truly stick, for you to believe it, right? Perfect example, I have a client. He comes in very often, he says, how are you feeling? He's like, I feel depressed, I feel sad. I said, okay, cool. How do you know you're sad? He doesn't really know, right? I said, I want to challenge you to do something. If you're open to homework, I said, I want you to look for every reason to be happy. And when he came back in that following week, ask me what he did. Nothing.
Hmm.
He did absolutely nothing, and he came in feeling the same exact way. So his mind has been so shifted to I'm sad, I'm depressed. So that's the only thing he wants to find validation in. So in a relationship, the only thing you find validation in is in that relationship. So once you leave that relationship, only thing you can think of, I am nothing without them. I can't make it without them. I can't live without them. I can't move on without them. Life isn't the same without them. But you've never told yourself that I am enough in who I am. I'm never alone because I have God. I'm never alone because I have my community. You've never asked yourself or even challenged yourself to think anything different. That's the very first step. The second step, you get a counselor. You get a counselor, and maybe sometimes that's the first step if you don't have enough in you to do that. So I feel like that was a hot topic question, Miles, and we just went.
That's fine. We need to keep that. We definitely
Yeah,
need to
but
keep
that
That's
right
a good
there is
one.
my answer.
That's good. That's
And
good.
I would recommend your therapist be Rex. He's
Absolutely.
a real one. He ain't no street made up
Yeah.
one. Yeah, he's
Absolutely.
a real one. So
That
that
was
man,
powerful.
thank you.
We did an amazing job, guys. We finally wrapped up this one. So why titles bring entitlement. Next week we're gonna come back with a whole new part 1 and part 2 series because we can't get through 10 questions in one session.
Literally, let us know what y'all want to hear.
Absolutely. Send it to us,
Let
man. Y'all can DM any of us. And we'll
yeah.
Anyone.
make it.
Let us know
Um,
what y'all want to. Which let
let's
us for
talk
one.
about
Let
men
us.
is about to be back in the studio. We're so excited. God, thank you. I just want to say that. Like, thank the Lord, because it's been a while and we're excited to be back. So that hustle gonna be on times 10 now, Rex.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, strategy is all we know.
Absolutely. Coach Lauren, why don't you tell them what we got coming up before we close?
Well, hey, do not forget to join. Click the link in my bio, Miles's bio, Rex's bio. Please join the Men's Morning Mastery. I'm telling you, whenever they let me come back, I think I got to get 10 votes, y'all. 10 votes. I'm coming back. Okay. It's definitely the safest place on earth for men who are looking to develop and grow in every area of their lives. So, it's every Monday through Friday, 6:55 a.m. to like 7:35 a.m. So trust me, you want to be there. Click the link in the bio and join there. And of course, I have some. Well, we have some group coaching programs that are kicking off in January. So if you have been struggling in your relationship, if you have been that coexisting roommate person, and you like, child, where are we going from here? Click the link in my bio, book a session, book a consultation. Let us help you get right where you need to be. Your relationship does not have to fall apart. It really don't. So that's what we're working at. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is this. Yes, the Morning Master Meetup is a great place to be. You're gonna get community, you're gonna get accountability, you're gonna get development, you're gonna get spiritual growth, mental growth, in all areas. But there is an investment now, right? It's a small fee of $25 a month, and that right there will give you access to community 30 days out of the month, literally Monday through Friday from 6:55 a.m. to 7:45. So 45 to 50 minutes every single day with a licensed counselor, person development coach, and other like-minded brothers that are in the right direction. They're only there for growth. They're only there to learn. They're only there to continue to share wins and also to share losses so we can work past what's keeping us stuck. So that's definitely the place to be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you click those links, join those groups, and get ready for our group coaching that kicks off in January. This is Real Talk, Real Growth, and we can't wait to see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, love, and chicken grease.
Look, and now the awkward silence until
Right.
then.